Welcome to the deep dive. We don't just chase the latest crypto rocket ship here. We actually dig into the ground it launched from. Today, we're grabbing our, let's say, digital trowels and brushes. We're not just looking at the crypto landscape. We're becoming, well, crypto archaeologists. That's right. We're going into this forgotten corners, the abandoned projects, the dead tokens, the ones that promised decentralized everything, raised millions sometimes, and then just faded away. Now, you might be thinking, why focus on failure? There's so much happening, right? But here's the thing, just like archaeologists learn from ancient ruins, we can get some really invaluable lessons from crypto's digital graveyards. Every failed project, it's like a case study, etched in code, a cautionary tale. So our mission for you today is to dig up those insights, give you a deeper, maybe more nuanced view of this, well, let's face it, very volatile market.
Exactly. And that's why this kind of deep dive is so important, I think.
Yeah.
It's more than just, curiosity. When we study these digital ruins, we see not just what went wrong, but maybe why. And these failures, they show patterns, right? Common pitfalls that get missed when everyone's just focused on the winners.
Yeah.
These are the insights that really build critical thinking, especially in a space moving this fast. So this deep dive, it should help you spot those red flags instinctively, understand the currents, and hopefully navigate crypto with a bit more discernment. See that path forward more clearly.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Where do we start digging? I think the earliest layers make sense, right? That first big wave of digital ruins, the countless ICOs, initial coin offerings from that crazy 2017, 2018 period. If you were around then, you remember the frenzy. It was wild. And what we found afterwards was, well, so many were built on not much more than a really slick website, maybe a nice-looking white paper that was pretty vague.
And a whole lot of hype.
Whole lot of hype. Yeah, their promises were huge, almost utopian sometimes. Decentralize everything. Global supply chains, social media, you name it.
It sounded incredible on paper.
Totally intoxicating. But the problem was the hype was just so strong, it completely hid the fact that there wasn't much real actual utility there. So when the market turned, when that sort of irrational exuberance cooled off, yeah, poof, we were left with, well, a lot of nothing. Projects just vanished. I remember reading some white papers back then and thinking, okay, this sounds like magic, but how does it actually work? Maybe that was the first sign,
That nothing you mentioned, that's exactly where we find our first big lesson. That whole era shows perfectly that just having tech or even just a good story, it's not enough, not for the long run. The key insight here is hype without actual utility is basically a ticking time bomb.
Right.
The market might buy into it for a while, but eventually it demands substance, real value. For a project to last, it needs to offer something tangible, solve a real problem, not just a theoretical blockchain thing.
Like that pizza example you mentioned before we started.
Exactly. Decentralizing pizza ordering, but making it way harder and more expensive. It fails because it doesn't meet a need. So as you look at projects now, you need to really ask yourself, okay, what's the practical application here today? What problem does this actually solve for anyone?
That's such a critical filter because it makes you question that initial excitement. Okay, so next layer of the dig. This gets really interesting. Not all failures were just hype, right? We talked about the ones missing substance. But what about projects that actually had brilliant tech? Genuinely clever stuff. They built these cutting-edge decentralized platforms, maybe solved some complex technical puzzle. But then, crickets. Nobody used it. Think about that. An incredible platform, technically sound, maybe even elegant, but it's a digital ghost town. Couldn't get users, couldn't build that community feel.
Yeah.
This isn't about bad tech or empty promises like the ICOs. This feels different. So why did these technically good projects fail? What's the common blind spot there, even for smart teams?
That's a great question. And connecting it to the bigger picture, it really pushes back against that idea that the market's purely meritocratic, that the best tech automatically wins.
Yeah.
The reality, it's way more complicated. Unlike the ICOs, where the issue is often no real tech, here it's great tech that just couldn't connect. So the lesson, innovation alone isn't enough. A brilliant product needs a brilliant strategy to actually reach people and build momentum.
Okay.
Besides just the code, other things are absolutely crucial. Timing, for one. A project could be amazing, but just too early. The market or the infrastructure isn't ready. And then there's marketing, actually telling people about it effectively, and community building. Those are just as vital as the code.
So it's not just about building it, but getting people to come.
Exactly. A project can be revolutionary, but if it can't explain its value clearly, or if it doesn't build that active, engaged community, it's likely in a struggle. It's like building that amazing library, but in the middle of nowhere. Fantastic collection, no readers.
Great analogy.
So their failure wasn't maybe a technical one, but more about, well, not building the bridges, just the foundation.
That makes sense. The market isn't always rational, especially at first. So, okay, if we're looking beyond the white paper, what are those signs of good bridge building in a market strategy or community plan? What should listeners look for?
Well, first off, do they actually understand their user? Not just demographics, but why would someone switch from what they use now? Even if the current thing is centralized, look for projects talking about a clear user journey, not just a tech roadmap.
Okay.
Good bridge building means transparent communication too. Talking with early users, not just at them. Getting feedback, iterating. It's about building a real culture around the project, not just shipping updates. When you see a team that actively listens, responds, actually evolves based on community input, that's often a much stronger sign of potential adoption than just, a fancy new algorithm.
Right. That interaction is key. Okay, we've sifted through broken promises and also brilliant tech that didn't quite make it. But this archaeological dig, it also turns up something darker, something more deliberate. The rug pull.
Yeah.
This isn't about mistakes or bad timing. This is fraud, plain and simple. We're talking founders, often anonymous, just running off with the money, leaving everyone else with worthless tokens.
A digital smash and grab.
Exactly, calculated deception. And sadly, pretty common in some corners of the market for a while.
Which brings up a really important point. How do we actually learn from these?
Yeah.
From outright fraud, these malicious acts? The answer involves something called on-chain forensics.
Okay.
It means basically that with the right tools, you can trace the fund. They're right there on the blockchain. You can see the digital footprints left by these bad actors. Every transaction, even the shady ones, leaves a permanent mark.
That's powerful because it's immutable.
Incredibly powerful. And the preventative angle is huge. This transparency, this ability to trace, maybe even identify who did it, it's a deterrent. It increases accountability, makes it harder to just vanish. So for you, the listener, thinking about this, what's maybe one immediate thing you can do, even without fancy forensic tools, to be more vigilant, to try and avoid these betrayals?
That's vital, isn't it? Vigilance, like knowing which pads on the dig site are actually safe. So, yeah, what can listeners do practically to spot a potential rug pull early?
Okay, absolutely. The most immediate check. Due diligence on the team itself and the project's tokenomics, how the tokens work.
Right.
If the team is totally anonymous, that's a major red flag. Now, okay, decentralization sometimes uses pseudonyms, but a completely faceless team handling millions, that's inherently risky. Look for some transparency. Who are they? What's their background? Are they publicly committed?
Yeah.
Second, look closely at the tokenomics. If, like, 80% of the tokens are held by the founders with no lockup period, that means they can just dump them all at once. That's the setup for pulling the rug. So anonymous team, sketchy token distribution, those are two big immediate checks anyone can do.
Okay, so bringing this all together, what does it mean for us today? Navigating this space, it feels like studying these digital ruins. It really does give you a deeper view, a more nuanced one. It's not just tech.
No, it's psychology, economics, sociology, all playing out.
Yeah. And this archaeological approach, it lets us see those common traps, right? The repeating patterns, human greed, irrationality, same old story, new stage.
It really is.
It gives us a kind of map, not just of where things are, but where they've been and maybe where they might go wrong again.
And that's where the lessons really become practical tools for you, the listener. Understanding the patterns helps you spot the red flags. Those warning signs that separate real innovation from, smoke and mirrors or worse. We've touched on them already. When you look at a project, ask straight up, is the team transparent or anonymous? Are the promises just too good to be true, impossible sounding?
Yeah.
And crucially, tokenomics. Is it fair? Or does it massively benefit the insiders over everyone else?
Yeah.
Those three questions can filter out a lot of risky stuff.
Right.
And look, this knowledge isn't about being cynical. It's about being empowered, developing that critical eye you need. It helps you make smarter choices, protect yourself, and maybe spot the really good projects hidden in all the noise. It's about building that mental framework for assessing risk and potential clearly.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's hold on to that core idea, the most valuable lessons. They aren't always in the shiny success stories. Often, they're found powerfully, profoundly in the failures. Understanding what went wrong helps us build better, innovate more responsibly, and just navigate this whole space with a bit more wisdom, hopefully. So stay curious. Keep asking those tough questions. Keep exploring.
Absolutely. And I'd encourage you, really, Become an active digital archaeologist yourself. Don't just take our word for it or read summaries. Go back. Read old forum posts from projects that died. Look at the last code commits on GitHub for failed projects. Examine those old ICO white papers.
Get your hands dirty, digitally speaking.
Exactly. Try to piece together the story yourself. Because it's in those quiet, dusty corners of the blockchain where the big dreams crumbled. That's where you really see the path forward. That's where you gain the deepest understanding. The future is often hinted at right there, etched in the lessons of the past.